the American West. The very phrase evokes images of vast landscapes, daring adventurers, and a time when the nation was forged in the crucible of frontier life. From the silver screen to the pages of dime novels, the West has captivated the American imagination for generations. It's a land of stark beauty and brutal reality where stories of hardship and triumph are etched into the very soil. But how much of what we think we know about the West is rooted in historical fact, and how much is the product of myth and romanticization? This essay will delve into the heart of the American West, separating the legends from the lived experiences of those who called it home. The allure of the West is undeniable. It represents a time of exploration and expansion, a period when the boundaries of what was possible seemed limitless. The stories we tell ourselves about the West are often tales of rugged individualism, of cowboys facing down outlaws in dusty streets and pioneers forging their destinies in untamed wilderness. These narratives, while compelling, often obscure the more nuanced and complex realities of life on the frontier. To truly understand the American West, we must move beyond the simplistic narratives that have come to define it. We must look beyond the romanticized images and delve into the historical record, examining the lives of those who lived, worked, and died in this vast and challenging region. Only then can we begin to appreciate the true legacy of the American West. One of the most enduring myths of the American West is that of rampant lawlessness. In popular culture, Western towns are often portrayed as lawless places where disputes were settled with six-shooters at high noon. While it's true that the West had its share of violence, the reality is far more nuanced than the Hollywood stereotype. The vast majority of people who lived in the West were law-abiding citizens simply trying to build a better life for themselves and their families. The establishment of law and order was essential to the development of the West. As towns and cities sprang up, so too did courts, law enforcement agencies, and other institutions designed to maintain order. While these institutions were often rudimentary in their early years, they played a vital role in creating a more stable and predictable society. The presence of law enforcement, while sometimes limited in its reach, helped to deter crime and provide a measure of security for settlers. Furthermore, it's important to remember that violence in the West was not always random or senseless. Much of it stemmed from land disputes, conflicts over resources, and tensions between different cultural groups. The West was a place where people from all walks of life were thrown together, often competing for scarce resources. In such an environment, it's not surprising that conflicts arose. However, these conflicts were often rooted in specific historical and economic contexts, rather than simply being the result of widespread lawlessness. No figure is more synonymous with the American West than the cowboy. Immortalized in countless films and novels, the cowboy has come to embody the spirit of the frontier, rugged, independent, and always ready for adventure. While there's no denying the romantic appeal of the cowboy, it's important to remember that the real cowboys of the West were not Hollywood heroes. They were working men, often from humble backgrounds, who endured long hours, harsh conditions, and low pay to drive cattle across the open range. The life of a cowboy was one of hard work and few comforts. They spent long days in the saddle, often under a scorching sun or facing biting winds. They slept on the ground, ate simple meals cooked over an open fire, and were constantly exposed to the elements. It was a demanding and dangerous profession, far removed from the romanticized image often portrayed in popular culture. Moreover, the cowboy workforce was far more diverse than is often recognized. While the image of the white cowboy dominates popular culture, the reality is that African Americans, Hispanics, and Native Americans all played significant roles in the cattle industry. These cowboys, often facing discrimination and prejudice, were essential to the success of the cattle drives and the development of the West. Section 4: Native Americans, Beyond the Stereotypes. The history of the American West is inextricably linked with the story of Native Americans. For centuries, Native American tribes had called this land home, developing their own unique cultures, traditions, and ways of life. Yet, the arrival of European settlers in the West set in motion a series of events that would forever alter the lives of Native Americans. The westward expansion of the United States brought with it disease, displacement, and conflict, as settlers encroached upon Native American lands and resources. It's essential to remember that Native Americans were not a monolith. They were and are a diverse people, with a wide range of cultures, languages, and beliefs. The tribes of the West had their own unique histories, traditions, and forms of government. To reduce Native Americans to a single stereotype is to ignore the rich tapestry of their cultures and experiences. Sadly, the story of Native Americans in the West is often told from a single perspective, that of the settlers. This perspective often portrays Native Americans as obstacles to progress, as savage warriors who stood in the way of westward expansion. This narrative ignores the complex realities of the time, including the broken treaties, forced removals, and assimilation policies that devastated Native American communities. The real people of the West were a diverse group, each contributing to the region's rich history in their own way. From the Native American tribes who had lived on the land for centuries, to the European settlers seeking new opportunities, to the African American freedmen and women who moved west in search of a better life. Each group faced its own unique challenges and made its own unique contributions. The cowboys, often romanticized in popular culture, were just one part of this tapestry. Many were Mexican vaqueros, African Americans, or Native Americans, bringing their own traditions and skills to the job. Similarly, the towns that sprang up across the West were melting pots of different cultures and backgrounds. Chinese laborers who built the railroads, European immigrants who sought new lives, and many others all played a role in shaping the West. Separating fact from fiction when it comes to the American West can be a daunting task. Many of the stories we hear are based more on myth than reality. Take the image of the lone cowboy, for example. While cowboys certainly existed, they were not the solitary figures often portrayed in movies. They worked in teams, driving cattle over long distances, and relied on each other for survival. Similarly, the notion of the Wild West as a lawless land is largely exaggerated. While there were certainly conflicts and violence, many towns had established legal systems and law enforcement. The reality of life in the West was far more nuanced than the simple good versus evil narratives often depicted in popular culture. Embracing the complexities of the West means acknowledging the many different stories and experiences that make up its history. It means recognizing the contributions of all the people who lived there, from the Native American tribes to the settlers, to the many others who made the West their home. It also means understanding the darker aspects of that history, from the displacement and violence faced by Native Americans to the struggles of other marginalized groups. By looking beyond the myths and stereotypes, we can gain a deeper, more nuanced understanding of the American West and the people who shaped it. In doing so, we honor the true spirit of the West, a place of diversity, resilience, and complexity.